in a pedagogy of confidence, we've identified 7 what we call high operational practices. They are practices, and I keep mentioning gifted because I used to be in charge of gifted programs in New York City, and I said, what is it that you do for students who are labeled as gifted that keeps the momentum up, that makes them inspired, that pushes them to want to do these exciting types of inquiry? That became then the thrust I took with this pedagogy of confidence. So I identified 7 practices. It's always starting with strengths. It is building on relationships as a major prerequisite for how students and teachers interact with each other. But it's also relationships across what you're studying, across ideas and disciplines, across strategies and skills. So in relationships, we're talking about things like comparative behavior, developing analogies, looking at similes and metaphors where you're constantly balancing and getting students to see many perspectives but comparing that, because that's such an important part of how intelligence develops. The other practices are, as I said, this focus on high intellectual performance. You know, a lot we've talked about things like literacy, but in a pedagogy of confidence, the aim is always about bringing out the highest in a child, literally saying intellectual performance, because then you have to say, well, what is intelligence? And how am I going to support them? How do I give students the opportunity to show their intelligence in a variety of ways? And the other practices are looking at, we call it situating learning in the lives of students, that we know that learning has to be contextualized, that you always have to be making a connection between the life of a student and what you're learning in school. One, because the brain is searching. The brain is always saying, what do I already know about this? But there's always that desire also of, how is this meaningful and relevant to me? Well, that has to happen with that kind of situating the learning in the lives of students. Another one of the practices we call student voices. That's not just taking a survey and asking students how they feel about it. That is literally putting students and teachers in deep dialogue and discourse to the point that students attend professional learning experiences with the teachers. They literally go to professional learning. Now why? Because then language changes. They start talking about learning from knowing how learning happens, how you apply it. It helps students learn the social discourse of academics, so that when students then are working together or on their own, they're always thinking about their learning and how they can push themselves as well. And so those are some of the things that we provide that say, we're going to change how we operate and not look at content, but look at thinking and dispositions of students so that they believe they have high intellectual ability as well.